Today's video is out of Surprise, Arizona, but quite frankly, the outcomes here are no surprise at all. Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson. We are so glad that you have joined us here at Active Self-Protection. My name is John Correa and I am your host.
I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. He already said it.
Today's sponsor is Bond, a personal security platform and a very useful tool between everything is fine and calling 911. It's the I'm uncomfortable button that gives you and your loved ones instant on security agents so you're never alone. Bond agents engage and deter perps who want no witnesses. They have a 100% track record deterring crimes of opportunity because it's like installing a can of OC spray on your phone. It's for when you can't carry tools and for your loved ones who won't. Check out Bond's special ASP discount at the link below. You can see in the upper right corner, it is 3 o'clock in the morning. Surprise PD is on scene at this house because a couple has been arguing all night and it's escalating. Their teenager called in and called 911 and asked cops to show up because in the teenager's report, in their call into 911, they said, they get arguing like this and it escalates and get out of hand and I need help. So you can listen to that call in the link in the description. Let's listen into what happens when they show up. It happens quick.
He's trying to hit me.
Hey, sir. Sir?
Don't come here, boss.
Wait,
don't go.
You got an AR. It's 2399A. I got one male subject down. He has an AR-15.
On the call in, the officer said he had an AR-15. It was actually a shotgun that he had. We'll show it to you in the lessons for sure. The officer's shots were accurate. The perp here ended up dying of being shot multiple times. No one else was harmed in this one. Listen, if you've followed the channel for a while, you know that I have strong libertarian leanings, but saying this guy has the right to have guns in his own home when he's in the middle of a domestic at 3 o'clock in the morning and he knows the cops are on the way, wrong answer. Seems like we say it on the channel all the time, Mike, but a domestic violence call is absolutely unequivocally the most dangerous call you're gonna go on. I don't care if it's 3 p.m. or 3 a.m., it is always gonna be bad. Although I will say, the 3 a.m. call, if you're like, hey, you know, minor child called in, you got to know this one, and there's a pretty high likelihood it's going to heck.
Yeah, it's not a good night when you get a 3 a.m. call for, excuse me, for a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend fighting. Frequently, I'm not saying in this case, but frequently they've been up, you know, all day and half the night. They've been drinking, you got drugs on board or whatever, and you have really irrational people who already are in a weird spot mentally. Then you add on the passions they have for and against each other, and all of a sudden you show up and you're this interloper, right? And now potentially they're both going to turn on you because you're a convenient target. So yeah, DV calls, insanely dangerous. I never went to one where I wasn't, you know, pretty on edge because you have that sense that there's passions running high here and you're getting in the middle of it and it's just not a good spot to be in, but you're the police. You got to react to it. So react you will.
And as he comes up here, listen, I know there's going to be some people going to be like, he had every right to have a gun. He had every right to be in his own home. And that's a mess. So the officers come up here. He's got a handheld light. Good for him on that. That's exactly what he needs here. And notice as soon as he hasn't knocked on the door or nothing, and she busts out and says, you know, basically, thank God you're here. She says, he's trying to hit me. So she comes out in a way and is grateful that the officers are there. So it's very clear to me, Mike, that they had established their presence and that both of them knew that the cops were there.
Yeah, they absolutely both knew. Because we go forward in this video, the gentleman standing in his own, you know, kitchenette or living room, whatever that is, can clearly see there's a uniformed police officer in his house. So the argument that, well, he's in his home, he has every right to be armed it's just silly. If you're making that argument, it's a silly argument. The police have been called by a family member of yours because you can't control your behavior. The thing to do when they arrive is the thing not to do, I should say, is to walk out with a shotgun. To what end? What does he think is happening here? What does he think is going to happen when he does this? So yeah, that argument doesn't hold water with me. Everything about this makes my butt pucker. quite a bit, knowing this is not going to end well, almost certainly. I'm thinking probably in some sort of physical confrontation with the male half, but we see how it turned out in this one, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, and I also want to say this is why police respond to domestic violence, because this woman's like, dude, this bigger, stronger man he's trying to put his hands on me. I need help. And she comes out, and the second officer is going to stay outside with her. And that's smart. You don't want to just let her off into the wild blue yonder, not knowing what's coming around there. And that leaves our officer here all by himself. I do want to note here that what I can't tell you what our officer sees through his Mark 1 Mod 0 eyeballs, but I can tell you as we advance a few frames that this guy is now going back away from the house. And if you're paying attention, if you just walk frame by frame through this, he doesn't have anything in his hands when he's walking towards the back of the house. So it's not like she came out and just saw officers. Oh, officers, you're here. She knew exactly who was there. She assumed that who they were and knew who they were. It's, I think, a reasonable assumption that he did too, and he's headed towards the back of the house. And as an officer, you got to know he's not going there, Mike, to bring you roses.
Yeah, nothing good is happening here. The fact that he is retreating to the back of the house, my first thought would be he's going to barricade himself in a bedroom, maybe self-harm, maybe retrieve a firearm, whatever. But none of it's good. If this is a normal thing and he's not, worried about going to jail, he's going to walk to the front, maybe show his hands and be like, hey, officers, what's going on? How can I help you? Instead, he retreats to the back, and nothing good is coming from back there whatsoever. It wasn't until you told me that I realized I wasn't sure if he had a gun in this frame or not, because you're the one that does the video editing and goes through the stuff frame by frame. So he went back there knowing the police were there and retrieved a firearm. None of those are a good idea. None of them.
And of course, there's going to be some folks who say, well, he had every right to have a firearm in his home. Okay, wait a minute. Let's go back through what we are. We've been arguing with our wife all night, long enough that our teenager is called in to get some help. My wife absolutely recognized that it was officers who were here. It's a brightly lit kitchen. There's a big bright light on. I'm in full uniform. So what would a rational person do here? Not pull a gun on the cops, okay? Recognizing none of this is rational, and I get it. He's been arguing with his wife all night, whatever. But the fact of the matter is he's hiding his right hand right now. He's bleeding away from the officer, and the officer has, of course, saw you go towards the back, and none of that stuff validates what this dude is doing. And he's going to raise that shotgun up. We're going to see that in a little bit that he does. And this is why, Mike, we say an officer needs to be trained and ready to get his gun out of the holster and into the fight in a hurry, because it's the bad guy who gets to set the time and the conditions of the gunfight. Yeah,
the bad guy gets the ultimate vote, which is when does a gunfight start, right? And in this case, dealing with a shotgun, if you've never fired a 12 gauge shotgun, pump action shotgun, or even a semi-automatic shotgun, it is an incredibly powerful, incredibly devastating weapon, whether it's buckshot, which is a bunch of smaller pellets that come out in a controlled group, or whether it's a slug, which is a rifled, big, dumb 1 ounce hunk of lead that goes through car doors. Either way, it's bad. At this range, completely devastating. The last time I looked, the FBI's stats on how many rounds from a shotgun it took to end a gunfight from law enforcement, that number was 1. They rounded it the nearest number, and the number was 1, because 1 round out of this usually will stop any threat. Even if he's hitting his body armor, this officer is going to be down for the count. You catch a slug to the middle of body armor, the back face deformation on your soft armor is going to be absolutely devastating. It's probably going to shatter your sternum, could stop your heart. So I say all that to say this. This officer doesn't have the time or the luxury of asking this guy, hey, what are you doing with that shotgun? Hey, why are you holding that right now? He has to respond, because if we're slowing this way down. This happened in a split second. This entire shootout maybe took, 2 seconds, 3 seconds tops from beginning to end. So the ability to get your gun out of your holster, especially uniformed officers, those modern, like the Safariland ALS that so many agencies carry, that draw should be lightning fast. Your draw to first shot should be sub 8, 7.8, something like that, because it's just so easy to get the gun out. So no excuses for not having a quick draw. This officer didn't need to make any excuses, because he drew extremely quickly.
He really did. And I want you to see what our bad guy does here. As you notice here, he's got the gun hidden away, and now he is going to bring that shotgun, and he started to bring that shotgun up. This is the indication, oh man, I see a gun and it is coming in my direction. And this is where that draw to first hit so matters, friends. It ridiculously matters, because every gunfight is a competition. Now, some people are like, I don't want to shoot competition shooting because competition isn't gunfighting. Okay, fine, but every gunfight is a competition. You just don't know what the part time is. You don't know how good the other guy is. So you want to get good enough to fight a really determined attacker. And this guy's raising his shotgun up, and exactly what Mike said here is that if he hits you with a buckshot round, you're dead. I'm just telling you, okay? Somebody puts buckshot in you, now his vest might stop buckshot, but it's gonna send you to the hospital if he gets you in the body armor. But if he gets below your body armor and puts it in your guts, you're dead. If he puts it in your femur, you're dead. If he puts it in your face, you're dead. And so you need that first hit to come quickly. Now, we talk about this in private citizen gunfights too, Mike, that the draw to first hit really matters. But officers in particular, they don't get a chance to wait their turn in a counter ambush. They have to go from behind the curve, and that makes this timing ridiculously critically important.
Yeah, you mentioned, John, you're fond of saying, and I think it's true, when people say there's no timer in a gunfight, there absolutely is a timer. There's no beep in a real gunfight, generally speaking. There isn't an auditory beep. There is a visual cue. That cue is your beep, as it were. And the timer starts right then and there. And if you're not able to get your gun out and get effective fire in a quick period of time, you're going to lose that gunfight. And losing a gunfight is never a good thing. Let's also discuss briefly, look at his backstop. Who knows what's on the other side of those doors, other side of those walls, right? So we had a video not long ago from LA. It was in a department store where a round from a law enforcement officer's gun went through a wall, killed a child on the other side of that wall. So how important is your marksmanship? Extremely important. I think, John, you wanted to touch on the marksmanship piece as well.
Of course. I mean, so we watch him get the gun out here. From that last frame to this one for his first shot to break is about 0.65 seconds. I got to tell you, that's rocket ship fast. 0.6 is a ridiculous number, and kudos to him for that. Second thing here, you can see he's got his left hand has his flashlight, his handheld flashlight in it that he's been using. So in that second, he has to get a single-handed shot. Officers, don't neglect your one-handed shooting. You need to get hits. You cannot miss fast enough to win a gunfight, but you can hit slow enough to lose one. This guy, on the other hand, he was out there on target and got hits. I want to just also say here, Mike, I hear this from time to time for people to say, well, you know, getting a dot on your pistol is great, except for it makes you slower up close. Really? This officer got a hit in .6 with a pistol-mounted optic-equipped pistol. I don't think he's getting any faster than that with irons. Dots are not slower up close if you're trained right with them, but they give significant advantages at any kind of distance and really for any kind of small shot as well. And they're not slower, but it's you who decide how fast you are. And Mike, he was fast and accurate enough here to make a difference and start changing this guy's behavior.
Yeah, this officer seems extremely squared away and well-trained and well-equipped, by the way. I'm going to venture to say here that this guy trains probably over and above his departmental standard. We haven't mentioned it yet, but we see here he has his handheld light in his left hand and hasn't dropped it yet. Ordinarily, that would be a criticism we might have, a nit we might pick. In this case, this just happened so darn quickly that I think his initial reaction is to get the gun out and get to work was the right one. I think had he waited maybe to drop the light and get a two-handed grip to get his first couple of shots out, that might have been an issue. So we'll never know. What I do know is if you're going to train with it, if you're going to put a dot on your gun, don't just slap a gun. This is for cops or non-cops or whatever. Do not just slap a dot on your gun, call it good, and go out and hit the streets with your gun like that. You need to make sure it's zeroed. You need to make sure you're trained with it. And you know about things like dot offset. You know about the difference between shooting up close and at a distance with a dot, what yardage it's zeroed to, all that sort of thing is critical to know. So make sure you train with the dot before you field it. That's really important as well.
I mean, training is everything. That's the bottom line. I mean, if you don't know how to use the equipment will not do you well. Notice here, he drops the handheld light and gets two hands on the gun. So he did that. It was so fast he got his first couple shots off with the gun in one hand, or at least the first shot. Then he drops the handheld light, gets his gun in the fight, and here, Mike, he has a malfunction. I'm not sure what caused that malfunction. It looks to me like the slide just locked to the rear prematurely. Maybe he's riding the slide stop lever a little bit high. Maybe he had a failure to eject out of the gun. I'm not sure, but I do know this is one of the reasons that we teach that nonlinear malfunction clearance. We just teach, I don't want to diagnose what's going on in the pistol. I just want to go. And some places teach tap and then rack and reassess. We're going to see him here. He's going to smack the bottom of that base plate hard, and that's going to clear the problem. Good for him on that. I think he could have also just run the slide. Just, come over the top and power stroke the slide. Would have probably done the same thing. But whatever the case may be, if your gun is not firing, you got to know right now how to adjust and do what needs to be done to get that gun back in the fight.
I think we determined, John, this was a SIG P320 or some variant thereof. I had one of these in my last issued gun as a Fed. I also had the P229 DAK, which was an absolute pile of crap gun, by the way. SIG really sullied their reputation with that one. But with both of those guns, when I would do an emergency reload, frequently when I drove the magazine home on either one of those SIGs, the slide would go forward on its own. I made sure I tested it. I wasn't riding the slide stop or anything. This is actually really important. This is why we need to train sort of full speed with live weapons as much as we can do safely. Because if you know this is what your gun will do under pressure when you slap the base plate, that your slide will go forward. If you know that in advance, that's going to save you a hundredth of a second of thinking about it in a gunfight. So this is why we train really hard.
And he did it. Watch him do it here. You're going to see this. I've slowed it down so you can watch. Watch him smack the base plate. Boom. Gun goes back into battery. He doesn't have to run the slide. And now he's able to get back in the fight. But now I also want you to notice he recognizes at that point that his gunfight's over, that the guy is down and he's not a threat anymore. So remember, it's not tap, rack, bang. It's tap if you want to tap, rack if you need to rack, and then reassess. It's fix the problem, get back to what it was in front of you, and because he realized, nope, threat is over, he stopped firing. And that also exhibits very, very good training. And Mike, I really think this cop did an exemplary job. I think he should be commended. I think he saved this woman from being hurt. I think that he got there and he was respectful when he came in. Dude raised the gun at him and he was a lightning bolt at responding to it. And I think that's damn commendable. In fact, I'd nominate him for the Special Pants Brigade.
Concur entirely. He can definitely join the Special Pants Brigade 100%. I will say this. We had a recent video out of New York and you saw some officers that were clearly not feeling it that day. They were not feeling getting into a fight with a guy armed with one of their partner's guns. And they kind of scurried and ran around and got on the radio. That is what I do not want to see. This is exactly what I want to see. I promise you, every officer who's worked with this officer in particular on that department, on that shift, is thrilled when he is their backup on a call. They are thrilled to have him show up at their traffic stop because they know he's squared away all day, and he's going to get the job done. At the end of the day, John, look, a lot of things are at play here, but domestic violence, right? Very dangerous call. Almost never not high passion. You walk into that with that mindset. You get to the door, you don't even knock on the door. The lady runs by you, he's trying to hit me. That raises your alert level, the intensity level even more. You come around the corner and the guy's just returned out of the back room holding a shotgun. What are you going to do? If you haven't trained properly, if you haven't had those conversations with yourself, you don't know what you're going to do, and that's a problem. So make sure you train hard, have the conversation with yourself. Can I do this job? Can I take someone's life if necessary to protect my life or the life of others? Answer those questions in your head ahead of time so that when the moment comes like this and there's no time to think, you don't have to think. You can just cover your ass.